to the shop, home of everything from the amazing to the ancient. Busy outside, isn't it? I hear there's an important trial at the courthouse, and it seems to have drawn quite a crowd. Anyway, how can I help you? Decorations. I don't have much in the way of that sort of thing, but do have a look around. You might surprise yourself, I suppose. That shell. Well, it could fit a theme in a bathroom or kitchen if you lived by the coast. I'm not too sure about that particular one, though. The pattern is fine enough, but as with so many items contained within my inventory, it comes with slight baggage. If you don't have to rush off anywhere, I can explain myself, if you like. Perfect. In that case, let me tell you about that limpet shell and its connection to the legend of Jan Tregeagle. Faustian pacts have always been a matter of interest for the general public. The idea of a mortal man making a pact with the devil for immediate gain at the expense of the immortal soul has always been a topic of much discussion and debate. No more so than in the 17th century, when rumours that Jan Trajegal, a magistrate based in Bodmin, had made one of these pacts in order to amass his great fortune. Along with the rumours of the pact came more rumours about his various evil deeds, from cheating an orphan out of his inheritance to murdering his wife. The consensus was that Jan Trajegal was not a very nice person. Being an old legend, there are several variations to the tale. However, the most widely spoken describes how in old age the evil magistrate realized the magnitude of what he had given up in order to secure his wealth, and so had a change of heart. Desperately, he gave away his wealth to just about anyone in an act of atonement. From the poor and impoverished all the way to the church, he shed his vast fortune wildly. When the terrified man died, the priests, whether convinced by the monetary repentance or out of a sense of moral duty, banded together to save his soul. And so, Jan Tregeagle was buried in St. Breoch Church near Wadebridge, with the devil missing out on collecting a soul that was, at least in his eyes, rightfully his. At least, that was the case for a short while. Unlike in life, where death tends to end disputes, when dealing in matters of the soul, it is only another step on an eternal journey. Some weeks after Tregeagle's death, a case came before a local court concerning a young man. Exactly what was being disputed varies in just about every retelling, but in every version, Tregeagle is summoned as a witness. Supposedly, the skies blackened and the ghostly outline of Tregeagle appeared in the witness stand, and almost universal to every retelling, the evidence he gave proved the boy's innocence, and so saved him from punishment. Perhaps it goes to show that what had previously been considered the most wicked man in all of Cornwall really had changed his ways. Unfortunately for Tregeagle, his spirit being summoned back to the mortal realm once again placed his soul in danger of being taken by the demonic hordes. Those who had summoned his spirit gladly gave custody of the spectre to the church, who went about trying to protect the deceased man. Ultimately, it was decided that the only way to ensure his safety was to set him a task to complete until the arrival of Judgment Day. Completion of this task would be near impossible, but as long as he was continuously attempting to finish it, he would be untouchable by the dark forces waiting to drag him down below, and possibly even rewarded with holy salvation. The first task he was set concerned Dosemary Pool, a lake situated on Bodmin Moor. It was believed the lake was bottomless, and Tregeagle's task was to empty all the water from this body of water with a single limpet shell, in which a small hole had been drilled. Year upon year, Tregeagle painstakingly attempted to move water out of the lake with the defective shell, with little to no progress. While monotonous, it kept him being dragged to hell, and so he continued without a single moment of rest. However, one day, an almighty storm forced him to cease his work. His sudden stop allowed the demons waiting in the shadows to resume their hunt, and so he fled. Fortunately, demons are unable to cross water, and so with that head start, Tregeagle managed to claim a sort of sanctuary at the chapel on Roche Rocks. It was only a sort of sanctuary, for while his head and some of his upper body resided in the church, the window he had jumped through out of fear was not quite big enough to fit his lower half. Luckily for Tregeagle, his cries mingled with the screams of the pursuing demons got the attention of the priest, who enlisted the help of his holy brethren to protect the damned man from the devil's servants. While under their protection, they also set him a new task to complete, to keep the monsters at bay. Instead of removing water from Dosemary Pool with a limpet shell, he now had to make a truss of sand, then bind it with rope weed from that same sand at Gwenvere Cove. After transporting him, they left him on the beach, and he dutifully set about his task for many years. Now, one of two things disrupted Tregeagle's progress. The first theory is that yet another storm crossed paths with the labouring man, washing away all his progress and again forcing him to flee the observing demons. And the other is that one night it became so cold that some water he was pouring on the sand he was working on froze, allowing him to actually complete his task. Either way, St. Petroc was summoned to help the fearful man, who encased him in an almighty chain and dragged him to a place on the south coast near Helston. The saint then gave him a great sack, into which he was to shovel all the sand on a beach near the River Colber, before carrying to cross the water and depositing it at Port Leven. Tregeagle was to repeat this arduous task until only rock remained at the beach. Cunningly, St. Petroc knew this would keep the man busy until Judgment Day, as the tide would continually bring fresh sand to the beach, and so he'd never be able to finish the task, no matter how hard he tried. While Petroc was indeed clever in his suggestion, the demon forces that watched over Tregeagle's soul were equally intelligent. One day, as the man crossed the river in an attempt to complete his labor, a demon tripped him, causing the sand from his sack to spill across the water, forming low pool and low bar. Again, the interruption caused Tregeagle to flee, and seeing what had happened, the local clergy begged he be given a new task for the sake of his soul. Some greater power listened, and he was indeed given a final task, which he carries out to this day. Tregeagle has been cursed, or perhaps blessed, the job of sweeping all the sand from Porthcurno Cove around the headland to Mill Bay. They say that on stormy nights you can hear Tregeagle howling and screaming at the futility of his labor, sweeping away until Judgment Day arrives, at which point his soul will face its final reckoning. Funny how something like limpet shell can be far more significant than you could ever imagine. In any case, does it still appeal, or would you rather leave it? Not for you, then. I suppose that's fair enough. Feel free to come back and browse my stock anytime. Just remember, be cautious with whom you next strike up a deal. It could cost you a lot more than you anticipated.